So you're filming your first YouTube video today. I'm gonna walk you through step by step what I would do if I was filming my first YouTube video for the first time again. All you need, just a phone, your editing software of choice. iMovie comes on a lot of Macs, so you can just use whatever software is easiest for you. And we're gonna do this in the easiest way possible. So what I recommend for your first YouTube video is you do it all in one day to avoid overthinking. The more days you spread it out, the more likely you're able to get into perfectionism and this perfectionistic loop. I am a huge advocate of the AMF framework. A stands for awkward, and you have an awkward phase. For your first 35 videos or so, you're in your awkward phase, embrace it. You're not critiquing yourself, you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall, getting it out there. Then once you get beyond 35 videos, you can move into the mechanical phase and worry about analytics, and you can try to hone things and strategize. And then beyond 100 videos, you get into a fluid phase, which is more creativity, it's more reinventing the wheel, it's not trying to replicate things for statistics. We are in the awkward phase today, your very first video. So we are gonna do this as quickly as possible. So let's get into step one. Oh wait, step one, we are just going to grab a regular old notebook, and we are going to list out some niches you could possibly want to be in. A lot of people are multi-passionate and they kind of hold off on getting a niche because they're multi-passionate and they don't know. So I'm gonna have my piece of notebook paper here. This is the pool. This is kind of the pool of videos I may be interested in making at some point. In the case of me, I had a video games video, and that's on the far side of the niche. I had fashion videos. I had makeup videos. I had time management videos. I had money management videos. I had personality videos. So during this awkward phase, the first 35 videos, we are just going to ping pong all over this thing to really figure out what are the bounds of being multi-passionate. We're not going to constrain ourselves at the beginning. Eventually we will want to niche down more specifically because that'll help you gain traction, but you want to make sure that you like your niche. First step, we're just going to write down what are the bounds of your niche. Okay, so you've got a couple of niches that you might want to pursue. So let's say you decide you want to pursue fashion today. It's not a permanent decision, but you want to do that today. So you're going to pick the niche, and then I want you to think about what are 5 videos in that niche you might want to make. Videos I made. My journey with fashion, 5 fall favorites, winter trends 2025. You know, just list out 5 possible videos, and we are not going to overthink this because we are in the awkward phase. So again, it's not about overthinking things and thinking slow. It's about quick decisions. So I might just say right off the top of my head, okay, 5 fall favorites. What would be on the thumbnail of fall? Maybe something that signifies fall, and there should be something that signifies clothing. And we're not gonna overthink it, but we're just gonna sketch it out right now. Okay, so I sketched out what I want the thumbnail to look like, and it's important to do this at the beginning so that when we actually do the filming and we get the thumbnail, we actually get these images. And so that when we're scripting it, we can script it in the best way. So this is nothing fancy, but it just does it pass the grunt test. Okay, 5 fall favorites, accessories, scarves. You could, continue that with whatever would be in the video. But if someone looked at that really quickly, they'd say, okay, this is fall, this is clothes. You might even make it even more obvious. It's your first video, don't overthink it too much. I just sketched this out in 30 seconds, perfect. And the next thing we are going to do is we are going to outline this beautiful video with this beautiful thumbnail we have drawn. I would say that another area to not try to reinvent the wheel and to not try to be too creative is organization of a video. 3-point structure does really well. Listicles do really well. Telling a story does really well. People want a framework and they want it to be packaged in a way that they understand. I recommend personally doing this in a notebook so that you can avoid overthinking. A lot of times people will buy Notion templates from other YouTubers that are just overly complicated, or they'll do it on their laptop. When you do things on your laptop, you have the ability to erase and write again and erase and write again, and it just allows for too much overthinking. Whereas when you write it on a notebook, it's just, you can't really overthink it. Once it's written, I write it in pen. This is all just about simplifying the process. So in the video I'm outlining here, it's 5 fall favorites. So really, I'm just gonna keep it short and sweet. I'm not gonna drone on and on. It's just 5 points. So number 1, I might show them my favorite sweater. Number 2, show them a favorite beanie, scarf, jeans, boots. Don't feel pressured to write out this huge long essay or script the whole video out. These are strategies that you can do when you get into more of the mechanical phase. But for your first video, I'd recommend just riffing. We're just gonna speak it out and we're gonna keep it short and sweet. So to keep the organization consistent, maybe I'll say the price of each one, where I got it, and how I love to wear that piece. And then I'll just repeat for each of the 5 articles of clothing, and that's gonna be my organization for the video. Okay, the moment has come to set up where we are going to film. For your first video, don't worry about the background or lighting or what you're gonna wear. Okay, you're in the awkward phase, don't worry about it. I recommend people focus on one thing per video, and since this is your first video, what you have to focus on is just getting started. So what you're gonna find is a window. I'm sitting here in front of a window because natural lighting is the best. Some of my best performing videos were shot just in natural lighting. If I had better windows in this house, I would constantly still be doing that to this day despite having all this fancy lighting. If you have good lighting in your house, do that forever. I mean, natural lighting is the softest, most flattering. It looks really, really good and professional. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a stack of books. Oh, What are those books on top? Oh, the potential planner? What is that? So I'm gonna take the stack of books and just set it against the window. And then I'm gonna take my phone and I'm just gonna lean it against the window. And I know there's a whole bunch of tips. The front facing camera is not as good as the back facing camera. The built-in mic's not that good, yada, yada, yada. There are all these things that eventually we will optimize for, especially when we get in the mechanical phase. But right now we're gonna use the front facing camera because you need to be able to see yourself and what you're doing. We're not gonna use a mic because you might not have one and that's too complicated for right now and it'll be good enough. And then we're just gonna use a stack of books, not a tripod. Okay, now we get to the actual filming of the video. You can retake things as much as you want. I would not recommend you retake any more than 3 different parts, especially for this first video. Once you get into the mechanical phase, you can retake different things. I retake a lot of shots. I'll say it, I say it again, I say it again, and then I cut that out in editing. But I find that even when I do that, a lot of times I will still choose the first one because it sounds more natural, it has better energy. By the time I retake something several times, I sound a little robotic. And I've actually criticized myself a little so the energy's down. So a lot of times, even if I do retake, I end up using the first one anyways. We're gonna try to limit it to just 3 times, like 3 strikes you're out your first video. We're in the awkward phase, just allow it to be awkward. So we're gonna go ahead and film. So what we're gonna do is you're just gonna go into it, say whatever you're gonna say, ramble if you're gonna ramble. The big thing today is that you're doing it. I'm gonna go ahead and click record. Hello, welcome to my channel. So today I'm gonna be showing you my 5 fall favorites. First item that I have here is this green sweater. It is my favorite item of clothing. I got it at Etsy for $35. I will link the shop here. And it is just my favorite for adding a little bit of color while still being a little bit neutral. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye. Okay, so now before I'm done filming, it is time to take the thumbnail. Now, there's a lot of different advice. It would be more crisp if we took a photo, but it's going to be easier if we take a video. Even Emma Chamberlain, millions of subscribers, she does it with just a video and then taking a screen grab. That's what I recommend that you do because otherwise if you take photos, you gotta put on a timer and you sit there and timer and you sit there. So I'm gonna pose like it's a photo, but I'm actually gonna have the video going. Now, in the case of the video that I'm doing, we outlined that my thumbnail was gonna be me posing 4 different times in the 4 different outfits. For the sake of this video, I'm not gonna get changed several times, but that's what I would have done. So I'm gonna hit record on this video, but I'm gonna pose like it's a photo. Set it over on the window. Ooh. Outfit number 1. Ah. Outfit number 2. Ooh. Outfit number 3. Ah. And outfit number 4. Now, this angle is not ideal, but I want to re-emphasize, this is the awkward phase. I could have spent 30 minutes setting up this shot a little bit better, but no. I'm not going to. Okay, now it's time for editing. Now, you can edit on your phone. Now, this is not something that I ever did. I never edited on my phone because I do not like to work in such a small space, but whatever your preferences are, you can do that if that's something you want to do. Once you have the footage airdropped to your laptop, you're gonna open up whatever editing software you want to use. I used iMovie for a long time. I know a YouTuber actually with over 700,000 subscribers who still uses iMovie. I reckon beginners just use iMovie or whatever editing software you have and you can stick with that for a long time. For this video, I'm gonna use Final Cut Pro just because that's what I've been using for a long time. The shortcuts are the same across a lot of platforms and we're gonna use very minimal things so it doesn't really matter which platform I'm using. I wanna pause for a second before we get a moment further into this video to just talk about if you have creative goals, you're a YouTuber, you're a content creator. I made this goal setting workbook specifically for creators, people who are creating anything, they have a big project over the course of this year and they wanna make big gains on it. So it helps you chunk your yearly goal down to quarterly goals to monthly to weekly so that you always have your daily tasks. So it just funnels it down, makes it really simple, and it helps you set the right kind of goals because a lot of times creators will set goals like I wanna have 100,000 subscribers and they don't get it and it's really demotivating. So this walks you through like what are the correct type of goals to set and actually making gains on that thing. I'm gonna create a new event, call it Fall Favorites, and then I'm gonna drag in both videos. The second video was only for the thumbnail, but I'll show you what we'll do with that in a second. So for the purpose of this example, my video was only 42 seconds, but yours will probably certainly be longer. And the only editing I wanna do is when we see these flat lines, we are going to just remove those. We're not gonna get super nitty gritty about it because it's just your first video, but anytime that we're just not speaking, we're gonna cut it out. So in a lot of platforms, what you do to split that, you just click Command B, and then that splits those two things in half, and then I'll just delete that one. So I'm just gonna go through and delete those. And what I would do sometimes on the first pass is I just go through not even listening. It's just if it's really obvious it's a flat line, I just go through and delete those first for speed. And I'm using the space bar every time I play and pause, play and pause. So that's all we're gonna do for the editing. We're just doing what I would call a rough cut. Typically what I do in my process now is I have a rough cut day where I'm cutting out repetition, I'm cutting out takes I didn't like, cutting out pauses, which is what we did today. And then the next day, typically I might add some music, overlays, transitions. This is stuff to worry about not on your first video. So for your first video, just stop here. This will be it. So now I want to show you how I'm going to get the frames, or basically that image from that video that we took for the thumbnail. So later on I took a thumbnail and I took it vertically because I knew from when I'd drawn out the thumbnail that I want these to be vertical images. In Final Cut, you can actually save the current frame. So you go up in the top right like you would to export and you click save current frame. So it saves that as an image to your computer. If I didn't have this capability, you could also just full screen in your window, click pause, and when the play button goes away, you can just click Command-Shift-3 and that'll screenshot. So that's another way, a less technical way that you could do it. Now, as I'm looking at this thumbnail, I'm thinking to myself, this looks a little cringy. And you might be looking at your thumbnail and you might be thinking the same thing. You might think, this is the crappiest thumbnail I've ever made. And you are correct. That is our goal, in fact. Our goal, remember, today was to create the worst YouTube video of all time, because we wanted to create it. Like, that's the emphasis. Not that it's good, but that just we did it. It's not what do other people think of us, but what will I think of myself if I haven't done it. So now that I have saved the images that I want to use for the thumbnail, I can now just delete that video from the timeline. And this is gonna be my complete video. It's minus 31 seconds. Then we're gonna export it. The only thing you wanna make sure is that you export it at the same resolution that you filmed it. So you can see in the settings on your camera, I'll show you in the screen recording here that my iPhone was recording at 1080p. So I wanna make sure that that is matched here. There was a stretch of videos there where I was filming in 4K, but I was exporting them in 320. All my videos looked so pixely and I just didn't have an eye for that type of thing, so I didn't even notice. Then I was getting comments from people, did you mean to upload this in 320p? The videos are so pixelated and so blurry. So just make sure that your settings match. So I'm gonna save this. If you wanna title it something with keywords, I think that that's best because YouTube will actually look at the file name. So if you're gonna call it 5 Fall Favorites or 5 Fall Clothing Pieces, go ahead and name it that in your project. Okay, excuse the fan going in my laptop. It's really working hard with having Final Cut Pro going, and I'm doing a screen recording, and I have a Google Chrome that I'm about to be doing, so that you might hear a little bit of a hum. So now we're going to make a thumbnail, and we are going to make it in the best platform of all time, which is Canva. This is my favorite platform. I'm so passionate about Canva. If you are going to purchase something at some point, I think that the premium version of Canva is incredibly, incredibly worth it. I got the premium version very early on, and it does some very cool things, like removing the background for you instantly. If I didn't want this laptop in the thumbnail, I could click on it, boom, it's gone. Now it's just a black background. It can do really cool things. I could click on myself and enlarge myself. Canva is an amazing platform, but that does require the premium version to be able to do those cool things. For your first video, I'm just gonna use only free things available for the free version of Canva. And I wanna give us a time limit of 15 minutes because there is always more room to be editing and you are in the awkward phase. The thumbnail's gonna look cringy, it's gonna look a little bad, and that's okay because the point of today is to get going. I recommend focusing on one thing per video, and maybe in the next video if you wanna focus on thumbnails, making it more aesthetic, you can, but in this video, your first video, it's just about getting going. So we're gonna make a YouTube thumbnail. So in Canva, you're gonna click Create a Design. We're gonna click Custom Size. The dimensions for a YouTube thumbnail are 1280 by 720 pixels, so make sure I'm in PX, and then we'll click Create New Design. So now I'm going to upload my 4 photos. So now I have the 4 images, so I'm gonna crop them to size just by using this white bar right here. Okay, so we have the 4 photos. You say to yourself, this is not looking great, and I believe you. So we're gonna spice this up a little bit. It's your first video, so we're just gonna focus on the basics. The basics of thumbnails are make it as bright and contrasted as you can, and make everything as big as possible. So like there's ceiling taking up a lot of space. A really easy way is just to make myself as big as possible. So what I might do to edit these images, I'll click on them, click edit, and I'm just gonna up the contrast and the brightness just to really make it pop. So I'm gonna click adjust, up the brightness, up the contrast. Then I might add some text that just says 5 Fall Favorites. And in general, we want our text to be as big and easy to read as possible. Try just at the beginning for no less than 3 words. Numerals do really well. Your eye, if you have a sea of words and then you have a numeral, your eye will go to that first. So we need to think about, back to the grunt test, like we were saying, what would make us think fall? Because so far, I mean, if I had more fallish clothes on, it would make me think fall. So far, the thumbnail might make you think clothes, but what would make me think fall? So I might add an element to just show fall. Then what I like to do is make it really small and just see if I make it really small, can I see everything? And sometimes, like especially at the beginning, I was actually designing stuff this way. I would zoom out and I would do the whole design process while it was really small. So I want to just compare this to my second YouTube video that I ever made of all time. I was just trying to recreate this. I think that this thumbnail that I made, it signifies clothing. I think I look at it and I think clothing just because there's a few different outfits, but the text is kind of hard to read, and generally having a serif font like Times New Roman does, where it's got those lines underneath the M, it's more difficult to read. So I think I could make it a lot bigger, this font, like the bigger the better, bolder the better. One thing that I had to learn over time with YouTube, it's not as much about having an attractive thumbnail as much as it's about having a thumbnail that people see. Big, bright, keep it simple, stupid is really the vibe with thumbnails. For the free version, we'll call that good with the thumbnail. I do want to show you just a really cool tool, and that is this background remover. So if I wanted to, I could remove the background and it would just show me standing there. So I could do that with each of these images, and then in the background, I could just put a wall. And so it does look bad. I want you to know, I know it looks bad. But when you zoom in from far away, it makes it a little bit more obvious what it's about. Especially if in the photos, if I was like pointing to the clothing. It's just when things are really small, any details in the background just really clutter it up. So I'm going to click share and then download it as a PNG file, just this first page, and the thumbnail is done. Okay, so now we're gonna actually upload the video to YouTube. Click create, upload it. I'm going to just title it 5 fall fashion favorites, maybe with a hyphen, best leather jacket, beanie, sweater. You can spend a lot of time picking the best title. I mean, you could just spend forever and ever and ever doing that, but for your first video, we're just gonna go quick. Then we're gonna write a description. One thing that ChatGPT is really good for is just boring stuff like this. I'm gonna say, write me a description for a YouTube video that is 300 characters or less. Make sure it includes the keywords must-haves for fall, fashion, fall, best items for fall. Repeat keywords at least 3 times and make it sound natural. Okay, we're gonna call this good enough for that. Gonna drag in the thumbnail. One thing people get caught up on is what time of day should I post it? How long should the video be? How often should I space the videos between? The truth is, some of these things matter, but they matter very marginally, and especially when it's your first video and it's very likely to just get 2 views. So what I wanna say is, you're gonna post this, post it right now, and it might just get 2 views. And in all likelihood, it will just get 2 views. And it does not mean that you have no potential. It doesn't mean that you're always gonna be terrible. It just means that it's your first video. You're in the awkward phase and the results are a little awkward, and that is totally normal. My first video got 11 views in the first 24 hours. And you know what? It turns into something eventually. So now that I've walked you through my entire process, you just need to get started. It is monumentally important that you do what you feel called to do and what you feel passionate about, and you get started in this new direction. And it's incredibly insignificant what the work actually is. So once the video comes out, you are not gonna obsess over views. You're not gonna obsess over analytics. You're not gonna obsess over comments that you get. You're not gonna think about what do other people think of this, but you're gonna think of, now that I did this, what do I think of myself? And I feel really proud of myself that I did something brave. I put out work that I'm not proud of. A big part of the creative process is your standards are here and your ability to create at the beginning is here. You're on the journey of eventually bridging that gap, slowly but surely. And it's not gonna happen overnight, and it's not gonna happen by you obsessing over it. It's not gonna happen by you criticizing yourself to death. It's gonna happen by just putting in the reps, little by little, by little by little. In all the ways that I eventually got better at YouTube, it was not because I obsessed over watching tons of YouTube how-to videos. It wasn't because I read YouTube books. It wasn't because I was on the YouTube Reddit thread. It was just because I put in the reps. It's good enough. You did a good job, kid. That's what I always think to myself. You did your best. You might not be happy with the result, but you got started. And that is huge. Get started. Get to work on your video. The worst thing you ever created and the best thing you've ever done. That's the motto. You're in the awkward stage. Go be awkward. It's gonna be great. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.